Darren, thanks for joining us. Brilliant evening.
Yeah, it was. I think you could tell by the turnout tonight the kind of intrigue with the new management team, and I don't think they disappointed. They were very open and honest about everything they talked about, and very engaging, and a couple of great personalities as well. And I think that's something we've craved at this football club for a while now. And fingers crossed. As much as they're great off the pitch, we want the performances on the pitch to match it as well.
And they have been so far, really, barring a few blips here and there. I mean, Oxford to mention, but also the first 12 minutes yesterday. They've been all right, though, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. Look, it's been a massive transition for them, and I think it was understandable that things weren't going to hit the ground running. It's always going to be difficult in terms of rebuilding the squad and getting the structure right, and new messages going across to the players to understand. And I've actually been quite surprised how quickly they have got them playing how they want them to play. We all hope it's not a flash in a pan and things take a turn, but you can see the quality in the side and see what they're trying to do. And like we said there tonight, I think Norwich fans are very forgiving in times when they lose games, if it's the right manner you lose them in, if that makes sense. And I think the way they play football and the way they approach games, that actually a loss sometimes doesn't seem so bad when you play the way they do. And I've been really impressed by it, because it was a really difficult season, back end of the season and the start of the season that they come into, with all the changes, all the upset, and not just losing players like Sarah and Johnny Rowe. It's then managing those players that are still here, in the Josh Sargents and the Borja Sainzes and Nunezes that have been touted around, because it's an opportunity where they could be thinking, well, is this a bit of a sinking ship? Can I get out? And they've managed to get them back on board, and that's hugely important to keep a bit of continuity for those players that are coming in to sort of gel with, and it's gone really well. Yeah, I've been really impressed. And
the thing that's really impressed us all is how much they've made those players better. Shane Duffy, for example, who has had his problems.
Yeah, and just hearing them talk about it tonight and about giving them responsibility. Sometimes I think, as a player, you're kind of caught in this place of doing your job and playing, and that's all that matters. When but if you get a manager that comes and says to you, actually, I want you to, off the pitch, can you help him? Give you a bit of responsibility away from it, and makes you feel a little bit different about yourself, and gives you a different feeling about the football club. You don't just feel wanted as a player; you feel wanted as a person around the place. And I think that's what he's installing, not just for those senior lads, but for those younger ones as well, to feel really involved and part of what's being created here. And long may it continue. It's a difficult one to keep going with modern football because of all the changes. But hopefully with the management team they've got and Ben Napper, that's when one goes, another one comes in. And I said that tonight about filling that gap and opens a door for somebody else. So, yeah, I've been hugely impressed with the start they've had, and I'm really excited for the rest of the season.
You were young when you started your career. Kellen Fisher is someone who's young and had a hell of a start this season, hasn't he?
He's been top class. I've interviewed him a few times. Quite unassuming. Got a bit about him in terms of his personality, and looks like a school kid, which is amazing, because he's probably one of the most feistiest players we've got. And I think sometimes he probably gets away with a few challenges because of the way he looks, whereas other players I think will probably get booked and a bit spoken to a bit before. But look, for what he lacks in physical presence, he certainly makes up for in heart and his ability. And I think he's been brilliant since he's come in. Certainly deserved his opportunity, and it looks like he's stuck that position as his at the moment. And it's great to have Jack Stacey as well competing for that position. That's what you want, is good players be able to compete for it. But Kellen's been outstanding. I don't think too many people expected it. I'd say not just in terms of his physical ability when he does like a tackle. He's got some ability going forward as well. He makes things go. And the one thing I've been really impressed with is they're very different fullbacks. So Jack Stacey's quite an attacking fullback, and he was always the supply line for getting balls into the box. I think the way Johannes and Glenn set them up, you've obviously got Grant on the right hand side, who they want to be able to do that creative play on that wide right hand side. So Kellen's probably a bit more defensive minded than Jack Stacey. And doesn't have to be the one who's producing things in that final third, which gives a lot of balance to the side, and actually defensively stops those breaks that we tended to get caught out with was in around the backs of our fullbacks. So we're not quite as expansive in our fullback areas now, which are making us a bit more tighter defensively.
Someone you will have worked with for a very long time is stepping down this evening. Delia and Michael. Some memories.
Yeah, you can't speak highly enough of them, can you? Really, what words can you say? I mean, they're just fantastic people. My time at the football club, when I first arrived, and all through it, I've seen them arrive at the football club, and I've known them ever since. Delia was kind enough to make my wedding cake, so just brilliant memories. Her and Michael, and Michael sometimes gets forgotten about a little bit because of Delia's presence, but both of them together have been absolutely sensational for this football club. And even when I was sold to Leicester, and she sent me a postcard with Drew a little crying face on it, and she supported me ever since. She came to watch games, she came to England games. She's just an absolute joy to be around, and what owner of a football club. And it's a new era. We hope the next one can hopefully get as much success as she's had, really, and Michael have had. So I'll miss them. I know we see them at the games every day, but it does feel like it's an end of an era. But on a personal note, I can't thank them enough for what they did for me and my family in my career at this club, and that's what it's all about here, and that's what they build as a couple.
If I'm not mistaken, you were here when they took it over.
They were.
What was that change like?
Yeah, they're really good. They came in and very positive. Fortunately, the problem I had was I was here for 2 seasons when they were here, and that was when the club was financially in real trouble. And I was called in by Bruce Rioch at the time and said, "We've accepted a bid from Leicester City. You're free to go and talk to them." And I'm like, "Well, I don't want to go. I'm all right here, thanks." And he's like, "If you don't go, the club's going to go into administration." So it was like, that's how desperate the club was in when Delia and Michael arrived. So to look at the stadium we've got now and the training facilities we've got now, that's only come under the leadership of those two. So what a legacy they've left.
I need to know more about this wedding cake as well. Tell us about it.
It was lovely. It was a classic fruit cake, 3 tiers. Don't know if I ever ate any of it. You don't tend to eat wedding cakes, do you? It's probably stale somewhere in a cupboard. But yeah, no, she's. I asked her to do that. They couldn't make it to the wedding, so she offered to do that instead. So just they can't do enough for you. And as I say, the legacy will be what we see around us, and that's a testament to how much quality they've brought to this football club, not just as owners, but as people.
A note on the new owners, Atanos. What are you expecting? What advice do you have for them?
Well, continue as we've gone on in the past, really. This club, I think, has always found itself being a club where it's full of promotions and relegations, a bit of a roller coaster ride, but always dipping in and out the Premier League and the Championship. And I think as Norwich fans, we quite like that, and we quite enjoy that, and we want more of it. So that's what I'd say. I think a sustained period in the Premier League would be fantastic. But I think from what I know of them, they're very much cautious in their approach, which is, I think, why Delia and Michael were keen for them to be involved. They aren't just going to chuck a load of money at it and then disappear in 5 years' time and leave us in trouble. So I think they're a long-term project. As the managers were talking tonight, they're a long-term project, the way the club's moving forward. And with Ben Napper, seems to be a really good direction. So, I hope they invest money, because it always needs that. As much as the support is great here and there's finances coming in from football, it does need an injection now at any time to be able to compete even at this level. So, but they seem again really honest and open and decent people, and I think the club's been left in good hands by Delia and Michael. But that will be shown in the proof is in the pudding, isn't it, in years to come? And all we care about is results on the football pitch. So if they keep winning on the pitch, we'll all be happy.
And that's it. Fans have got to get behind them, even in tough times, though.
Yeah, and Norwich fans have used to doing that. We've had that. I've been through it myself. I've been in good teams and bad teams in Norwich, and throughout that time, the fans have always been there. I think we've always had a certain way of playing, and even losing games, we've been very much supported because the fans have believed that we've had a right go at it. Even when we've lost games. So Norwich fans are, I don't want to say easily pleased. I think they're a very passionate and understanding support base, and I think they see, as long as they feel as if they're part of the football club and on this journey together with everybody and everybody's in it, they're relatively happy. And I think that was something that was missing hugely, and I spoke to the club about it many times at the end of last season and before, and Ben Napper when he first came in, about the kind of disjointedness between supporters and players and the manager, and it felt a bit disconnected, but it really feels like they're making a concerted effort now to bring that all back. And yes, it's got a nice feel about it at the moment, but as I say, results will always dictate that.
And finally, it'd be remiss of me not to ask you this. Ross Crane, some player, isn't he? He's taken a step up really well at King's Lynn.
Yeah, he is. I've had no doubt about him at all. He's one of the lads we worked with at Leiston, and he's very coachable, wants to learn, wants to get better every single game. He's got absolute raw talent, pace and power. It just needs to harness that, and I think having the opportunity to step up and train full time is brilliant for him, because he'll get that from a good coach that they've got there as well, and good manager. So I'm delighted for him. I wouldn't be surprised to see him move up again at some point, and I wish him all the very best. He's a great lad. He's got a great family as well. His dad and his mum and dad used to always come to games, so I'm delighted for him. He's a great lad. So yeah, I'm really pleased for him.
You mentioned the fact that fans feel maybe a bit more connected to the club at the moment. I know you've been doing these fan social club events for a while. Is that up there with the most positive you've seen?
I would say it was, yeah. Like, sometimes it can be when the audience are asked for questions. It can be people sit on their hands a little bit. They're not quite sure what to ask. But tonight you could see there's hands up everywhere. We had to cut it short. So I think, it is. There was genuine intrigue tonight. You could sense it when I walked into the room. Who are these two? What are they all about? We've seen them on social media. They're very engaging, and it's almost the complete opposite of what's been here for the last few years. So, it's exciting times again. And I think I said this before. Even as a manager and a player, supporters are very forgiving when you engage with them and they feel part of you, and they feel like they know you, as a friend essentially, or as a family member. You want to support them, you want them to do well, so you're almost a bit more forgiving of those poor results, and the fans will get behind them more for that reason when things aren't going so well. Whereas in the past, I think it's easy for fans to turn, but I think at the moment they're building a culture where the supporters will get behind them, in defeats as well.
Yeah, you mentioned that you spoke to Ben Napper when he arrived at the club and maybe gave him a little bit of advice. What did you tell him about the club when he arrived?
Well, exactly as I mentioned, for me it was all about that culture of disconnect between the supporters and players and the management. And whenever this club has been successful, it's always had a good culture of that. And it was pointing that out really. And even the players' side of it, like, after games, obviously I'm an ambassador here, and we have players come up into the lounges, and it's stopped, and there weren't players coming up, or they'd send one of the young lads up who haven't really been in the first team, and it needed to change. It needs first team appearances. It needs, not just for the supporters to be able to feel that, and again for those reasons like I mentioned about them being a bit more forgiving and understanding those players when things aren't going well, but also for the players socially to get out and mix with those supporters. They then build an affinity with the fans and for the football club and want to do well for the club even more. They don't feel isolated from it. They don't feel disconnected. So it's a win-win for everybody, for the players, for the management and the supporters. So that was kind of my main message I put across.
Yeah, to pick up on the Delia and Michael point, do you think it's the best sign possible for the qualities that the Atanasios bring, that they've got their seal of approval?
Yeah, look, I don't know. It's a really difficult one because my heart is still with Delia and Michael. I they've been such a big part of this club for my whole career. So it's really sad to see them move on. But that there'll always be fans. They'll always be here. But football is moving on, and there's only a certain amount of time that someone can keep doing it to the best of their abilities. And I think Delia and Michael are probably now thinking it needs somebody else to bring some fresh ideas and move things on. But I'd be quite happy for them to be in charge for the rest of my time. But to say, I think it's probably a good time for everybody, because it feels like a real transitional period off the pitch, on the pitch, in the football club, in the boardroom. It feels a bit like a clean sweep and a new start. So I think it's quite exciting.
Yeah, one subject a lot of people are talking about as well is Jack Wilshere's arrival. Obviously, you would have played under several coaches, not only the managers, but the people below them. When you saw somebody with that sort of calibre coming in, did that increase the level of respect that you had instantly upon them coming through the door?
100%. Even when I saw the appointment of Jack, I remember seeing it on social media. I think it might have been through the Pinkin actually. I remember looking at it and it was like, I was just nodding to myself going, yep. That's a big statement, not only because of his past in terms of the player, but I know him in terms of his standards and what he has on and off the football pitch, and his drive to succeed from his career was cut a bit short with injuries, and he's got a hunger to succeed, and I think he's a really good fit. The way he played and the way he coaches is very much fits in well to what we do and how we want to do things, and he's got that level of respect as soon as he'll walk in the door because he's Jack Wilshere. He'll have to earn that again with his coaching sessions and working with the lads, but I've no doubt about that. He's got a great personality as well. He's a great lad, so I'm really excited by it. I didn't expect it. I don't think that many people did, but I think it's a real coup by Norwich to manage to get hold of him. And as I say, he's not going to come here and just learn his trade and disappear. I think he wants to succeed everywhere he goes. He's one of those type of people. So he seems like he's got a real hunger in his eyes, and I'm delighted he's here, and I can't wait to see what he does.
Yeah, obviously those backroom staff are people that maybe fans don't see much of, and they don't see the evidence of their work necessarily. But as somebody who knows what that environment's like behind the scenes, how important is it that you get that backroom staff right as a club?
Massively, from right down even to the kit man. We all know Pete the kit man here, and Johnny, the great lads. And when I played, the kit men were essential. They were your mates. They were in the dressing room. They were the link between you and the staff, essentially at times. They do anything for you. They're great people, and it's so important. You can have a great manager, but if your coaches and your staff underneath you are not, you'll lose the players. It has to be the full package. And it looks now as if Norwich are building all the building blocks in place to have the right package and a real quality one at all different levels, different ideas. And as Johannes and Glenn said tonight, they're very much about letting others and other people have opinions on it, which is great because you can get a bit blinded by your own ideas. But I've always been a believer in the business and stuff I've got. If you listen to your staff and listen to other people, then sometimes you can still improve. And they feel valued, and that's what players want, that's what staff want. If you feel valued, you work harder.
And if there's one area of the pitch that we're going to ask you about, it's probably out wide. I wanted to ask you a little bit about that right wing position, because it feels like, although a lot of the team right now is pretty well settled, it feels like Thorup probably still has a bit of a decision to make there. What do you make of that mix at the moment?
I think it's a case of, at the moment, I don't think he's an out-and-out right winger. I think he's a centre forward, a number 9, but he's not going to get Josh Sargent out of the team. He's not going to take his place because he's done incredibly well. He's still a young lad and he's still learning. So I think it's a case of he can do a job and he's learning actually another string to his bow, and he's doing a decent enough job of it. I think that won't be where he ends up. I think he'll end up more as a centre forward. So it's a bit of an anomaly at the moment, but he's certainly doing a job enough for the football team, and I think that's credit to him. He wants to learn, he wants to get better. He's never complained, and he's improving every single game in that position, in an alien position for him. So it's very different for being a natural number 9. I think he is to having to then be the one who's creating and crossing balls and taking people on and tracking back. It's very unusual for them. So no, he's done a great job. But I do think he's not a winger. I've played that position. I know what it's like, and he's not an out and out winger. But he's doing the job for the team at the moment, and I think that probably is, as you said, an area where they'll be looking at longer term. But at the moment, he's doing a great job.
Yeah, we've seen a couple of impressive cameos from Kade Gordon as well. Do you feel like he's also maybe pushing for a start before long?
Yeah, I think so. They mentioned in there about his fitness. It wasn't quite here when he arrived, so it takes a bit of time to get up to speed. But he scored a goal, and that's vitally important. You get off the mark and again feel part of the football club while you're here, because I think if you're on loan, sometimes you can feel a bit separated and disjointed from the rest of the squad. But clearly, the culture they're creating at the training ground is he feels part of the team while he's here. Same with Callum Doyle, and they want to do well for this football club, and that's going to only bode well, because who knows what happens in the future. If they do well, then they might go, do you know what? Am I going to get an opportunity at Liverpool? Am I going to get an opportunity at Man City? No. Can I get myself here where I feel comfortable and where I've done well and can progress and showcase what I can do? So you never know what comes of it. But he's had a decent enough start, and he'll be hungry for more. And he's given the manager a headache, which is what any manager wants. As much as they don't like him, it's good to have players in form who are knocking on the door.